Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Metal Warriors. In the last part, we started off the game and now we're heading into the next mission. As of today, Lieutenant Stone is promoted to the rank of Captain. Congratulations, Captain Stone. Much of our recent success is owed to your skills as a pilot. However, our success has attracted the attention of Axis forces. Attacks by enemy space armor have increased tenfold in the last day. Our nitro units are badly in need of rest and repairs. I want to use the 2 captured Prometheus units to strengthen our defenses. 2 good pilots in these units should be able to defend the ship completely. And now for what is by and large my least favorite mission. Good luck, Stone. Ship defense here is as the game said. We have to defend the ship and the Prometheus units, which are slow but powerful. And we even get some Seeker shots to calm things down. However, I just destroyed the other Prometheus unit I have, so now I only have 1 health bar. And even then, I still technically have 2, because the ship itself has a health bar itself. The sort of Zaku units have a couple of different attacks. Whenever you're nearby, they're generally just going to try and attack you with standard pellet shots. However, they like to use a sort of beam rocket launcher, and they'll use that to attack the ship at a few key points, namely the little turrets on either sides of it, the very front of it, or the main bridge here in the center. We need some help here. We're doing some serious damage. If the ship gets too much damage done to it, it explodes and you lose the mission. Which, not fun, especially for what I want to do later. And something I haven't quite brought up entirely is just how kind of easy it is to die in this game. Because with lives, you're limited to, I think it's 6. Whenever you die in a stage, be it through your mech exploding while you're in it or getting shot to death outside of the mech, you're just sent straight to the game over screen. There's no extra lives. It's just continue outright. I forget if 0 counts or not, because I very rarely end the game with less than, like, at least 2 lives remaining. But this is one of the hardest stages just because of how easy it is to die, because you have to keep track of so much. My general recommendation, stay towards here where the bridge is and use your aerial mines especially. Hurry, we can't take much more of this. And hopefully you'll make it through it. I very rarely make it through the stage without reaching the 3rd point of damage where he says, hurry, we can't take much more of this, because there's just a lot to take care of. I want to say you win automatically after 20-something robots being destroyed. So just focus on the enemies and you should hopefully do well. It's a rough stage. Success in today's mission will give us a foothold on Earth. Failure could spell doom for everyone here. Captain Stone's group will enter the atmosphere in a low-level approach. Target the huge ground defense cannon based in Ketchikan, Alaska. Destruction of the cannon is essential to safe air operations of our forces. I know I mentioned it last part, but those cutscenes are just incredible for Super Nintendo standards. Good luck, Stone. What they could do with late Super Nintendo is just amazing. Now, this is probably where the game really starts to elevate in difficulty, because the stages from here out are generally going to be much lengthier, meaning you have a lot more of an opportunity to die. And while there are some decent restock points located throughout each stage for health, sub-weapons, or even other mech suits to get into to replenish your health through that method, dying from here on is going to be a bit easier and more costly. In the case a stage is on the lengthier side, usually the only checkpoints are when there's notable fade to black sort of load screens. Like if I die towards the end of this stage, I think I have to start it all over again. So you need to be a bit careful there, but thankfully, this is a game where practice does make perfect. Now, what I'm doing right now, I actually don't need to take the nitro out all the way this far, because I'm actually going to be mostly using that little weird mech we saw a few moments ago to progress through most of the stage. I just want to take care of that cannon in the case I wanted to come up there later. Also, while you have the nitro, be careful with flying this stage, because I believe high enough in the sky there are some mines that will start following your mech if you get too close to them. Plus, the cannon we're here to destroy will start firing on you if you get too close to it, so watch out for that, because that's located on the top right of the stage. By the way, this is the next mech for the game, the Ballistic. This is probably my favorite mech in the game in terms of just straight-up usability. Not only is it the fastest due to its movement speed and its little shield charge attack you saw me do there, it has a plasma cannon attack which will generally one-shot anything at full charge. And it just feels really good to use. We're going to be using this through most of the stage, partially just because the best way to get to the end of the stage is to go under the stage. And there's going to be a lot of long hallways down here that shield charge attack is going to be very useful for getting through quickly. Notable, just because it takes me for some reason a bit to remember, the power spin / rolling attack you do by pressing the beam saber button, the A button. And it's just really good for killing things, especially one shot. This will probably be the mech you see me use the least throughout the game, admittedly, just because, given its limited vertical mobility, it can be not as useful in some of the later stages where it appears, but for right now, it is our best bet. I didn't need to kill that Havoc, but I wanted to because this is one of the hardest sections of the stage right here, just because making this jump if you want to avoid this grunt suit is kind of annoying, and if you don't make that jump correctly, you might end up getting shot by that turret up there anyway. I believe you can fire the plasma shot before you fully charge it to get some other projectile attacks, but the most useful way to fire it is just to fully charge it up. And here we see one of the most tedious parts of the game, waiting for elevators. Whenever there's a stage where you need to use something that's not the nitro, since the nitro is the only suit in the game that can outright fly, you're going to be finding elevators all over the place to get you some vertical mobility. They're slow, and there's no way to call them back to you in case you miss them, so you need to wait around. We saw one of these in the meteorite stage, the meteor base stage last part, but because I had the nitro through most of that stage, it didn't matter too much. I only needed to wait for it briefly for the Prometheus to get up to where the ship was. But this, get used to seeing these things, and especially in either next part or the part after, having to wait for way too many of them. Charge power spin here to kill that cannon, by the way, or at least damage it quickly. And here we see a bit of a weird quirk with the game's programming. Whenever an enemy has been loaded on screen, it'll start firing at you, but if it hasn't appeared on screen yet, it technically doesn't exist. So any cannons or mechs that you're worried about taking some hits from, you can prepare yourself for by at least charging up a shot or something with the respective mechs that can do that, and then going towards them. That is very useful to know with any of the weird turret cannons we saw, like back in the meteor base or similar, just because then you can easily avoid them, or at least plan ahead. However, admittedly, knowing that they're there would require having played the stage before, and that can be dangerous. Now we're coming up on the end of this stage now, which is where we're going to have to start taking down that beam cannon. And the reason I unlocked that door just now was so I could get the ballistic up there if I needed it, because I prefer to take out this portion with the Havoc. Because while the ballistic is more powerful and would take it out more quickly, the quicker mobility of the, or at least the quicker relative mobility of the Havoc is preferable to me. Because the thing is with the Havoc, you can move and attack at the same time. You can't do that with the ballistic. You need to stop and then start firing. And I'd prefer to have the mobility as well as the melee attack that actually works like a melee attack for this fight. The cannon we need to destroy is to the right, and there's multiple parts to it. I'm just taking out these turrets because otherwise they'll be firing on me while it's happening, and that's no good. What we got here is the main cannon, which is obviously glowing red, a mine thrower, which throws mines at you that explode on impact, and those are very damaging, so you need to watch out for those. Then we got two standard little beam machine gun rifle things that don't show up all the time. My best strategy is just to stand around here, maybe a bit more to the left, and then fire directly upright into the cannon. This can take a bit. This is where I would recommend, if you want to use the ballistic, bringing it back, just so you can use the fully charged plasma cannon on it. In fact, I even considered doing it there, but then I realized, now I'll just stick with my guns. At the point where I'm at in this fight, if you're taking care of the things to my right and the things to my left, you don't have much to worry about. You can just fire up to the right and you don't have to really worry about dying. However, what you should worry about is if you start taking damage and you start to see a little explosion effect on the top left of your mech indicating that you can no longer use sub-weapons, go back and either find a health container or just go back to the ballistic. And I should note, item boxes in this game are a bit odd. Some of them are sets, like sometimes they'll always have health, always have beam power-up, so on and so forth. A lot of the time, though, they're completely random. They can be weapon power-ups, sub-weapons, or health. A lot of the time, you prefer it to be health, let me tell you that for a fact. Either way, that's a mission. It has its annoyances, and it can be a bit lengthy, but you're gonna have to get used to that by this point. The enemy has an underground research facility on the coast of Chile. Captain Stone's group will lead a raid on the facility. The mission is to locate and steal the enemy's new full-flight combat unit. I don't know why the 6 was placed weirdly in that title card. That's weird. Either way, Mission 6 is where the game starts to put checkpoints in the middle of the levels because they're so long. Starting off, we actually want to fly all the way to the right as far as we can until we find a little barrier, because then that allows us to get behind these enemies without a worry of getting hit by them. This is also where you're probably, on your first time playthrough, going to start dying somewhat reliably, because they start placing a lot of enemies in very cramped areas that's really hard to avoid things in. They also much more frequently start to place mines and have little weird environmental effects. We could have seen these last stage, but I didn't encounter the main one. There are certain sections of ground that if you stand on them, you will cause cave-ins, and that can be useful because sometimes that can lead you to items, but a lot of the time it'll just lead you into a lot of combat situations that you're very much surrounded in. Also, if you're wondering why I got out of the nitro and then back into it, there's a weird quirk with the mechs in this game in that they can't pass through each other, so you need to place your mechs accordingly if you want to juggle between them. Also, you may notice I'm already to the latter half of my out-of-suit man's health. There is a reason for this. As we've seen, the random soldiers located throughout the stage can use a variety of weapons, from handguns, machine guns, to basically rocket launchers. The different weapons do different amounts of damage to the out-of-suit person. The most powerful, I think, is the rocket launcher type that also damages the mech, and you need to be careful of that. And also, I'm really sad by this minor detail that probably would have been really funny, which is kind of strange that I find it funny, but it's just because of the kind of game this is. Whenever there's an enemy soldier on the ground, you need to shoot them with your mech to kill them. You can't step on them. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's probably not too hard to avoid a giant lumbering mech, but at the same time, I've seen Godzilla movies, and I've seen how much they get shocked by that shit. Now, for most of this stage, or at least the first third of it rather, we're going to be using the Prometheus. Partially because, first off, that extra attack and range is really useful, but also just because we don't want to waste the Nitro's health. I'll get more into why later. Now, the reason I also like the Nitro a lot, beyond its power, whenever you let go of the button, as I mentioned last part, it causes your bullets to, your missiles to explode, splitting in 8 directions or so. That extra directional input is why I like this thing so much, because it allows you to potentially kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Also, those missile launcher enemies are ones you need to be careful of. They hurt a lot. I don't know the exact amount of health it'll take off, but it's certainly a notable chunk. Also, I'm not sure if I've showed that off yet. I honestly forget. If you pause the game, you see a map of the stage, or at least a rough area of what's around you. And while it's not the most useful because it doesn't mark absolutely everything, I think it just marks where you are and maybe a nearby suit, it is at least useful for knowing what's coming up ahead of you stage-wise, where certain cave-ins could be if you're trying to figure stuff out, so on and so forth. And here I am waiting for the elevator again, because god damn it, I have to do this a lot. At this point, I believe, is where I recommend abandoning the Prometheus, because the Nitro is going to be more useful for the latter parts of the stage, just because we need a bit more upward mobility to make it through places a bit more reliably. Because the entire thing with this portion of the stage, obviously we're going through the underground part of the underground research base, but there are green energy barriers on the top of the stage that you technically need to get rid of in order to progress, technically not, because of how the end of this stage works. When you get to the end of this portion of the stage, it's going to fade to black and you're going to go into the next portion of the stage. Whatever mech you're using when that happens is the one that sticks with you. And trust me, whenever something like that happens, you generally want it to be the Nitro. I think there's also a ballistic somewhere in this portion of the stage, as well as, I think, a Havoc. There might be a spider, I'm not sure about it, because honestly, not only the latter half of the game stage is pretty long, they're also a bit too big for their own good in terms of actual pathway amounts. So it's very easy to find yourself lost and just not know where to go. Also, missiles again are very good. My best advice for this point onwards in the game is, if you've been bum rushing the game stages trying to make it through as quickly as possible, take your time a bit more from here on out, because then you'll have a better time, not getting killed. But even again, I should mention, that's only if you're going for the certain bonus that happens in a few stages. If you're not going for it, you're just going through the game for your first time, and if you died already especially, don't worry about it. You have a bit more comfortability in terms of just gunning it through, but you still need to be careful because this game is still easy to die in. Ow, ow, ow. Yeah, let's take care of that missile launcher, or I can just outright ignore it. Oh, I don't have a choice. Oh, great. And another thing with this game, if you're in a situation where you're very low on health, like I am right now, I can't even use sub-weapons anymore now, don't be afraid to retreat and try to regroup. Maybe there's an item box you didn't pick up earlier in the stage intentionally, containing health. Maybe there's another suit you could potentially switch to for a little bit, so on and so forth. There's a couple of scenarios like that that can help you out in the long run. Also, don't be like me and remember to use your shield, damn it. Because that really can save you a lot of pain. I think there are certain things that can make it through the shield. I think physical attacks like missiles will still damage you a bit through them. But energy pellets, beams, all that will generally get blocked by it. One thing I'm not sure about, though, with the shield is exactly the timing for the hitbox. I think if you're still bringing it out in the animation, it might not count for being there, but it definitely does if it's there. Now, something I find interesting about this game is there is another game, I forget if it was developed by Konami or just published like this was, that is eerily similar to this game in a couple of ways, called Cybernator. Very anime-influenced, kind of Star Wars-y mech fighting game. That is, unlike this game, a part of a larger series. That's part of the Metal Suit Vikan or Vulcan series or whatever it is. And it's interesting just how similar the two games are in a lot of ways. Oh, thank you. Especially when it comes to the mech animations. Though I should mention, I think this game was only ever released in the States. I think. It was obviously developed there because LucasArts, but I think this may have just been outright only released over here. Which might explain why certain things about it are so hard to find and come by information-wise, like the manual, as I mentioned last part's basically non-existent online, so I'm a bit in the red about certain information about the game because of that. But it's just one of those things where you have to wonder why. Because I know the manual is out there. I know it is. I've seen listings for it on, like, eBay. But just no one's turned it into a PDF yet. In fact, I think I've even seen some people requesting people turn it into a PDF. Maybe I'll check again, maybe a year down the line, maybe something will have changed by then. Though actually, I'm curious now, how expensive is this game, like, in full inbox on eBay? Because this strikes me as one of those that would be, like, up there on Earthbound levels or beyond. Metal Warriors cartridge on its own is about 20 bucks. Though there's one person really overcharging 116. I'm not seeing a complete... Oh, no, there's a complete one. Holy shit, 750 bucks. Yikes. Yowza. Ooh, boy. And I know for a fact, because I saw a speedrun of this while I was recording it, this game's speedrun's only about 20 minutes long. It's one of those games that can take a bit to play through on your first time, or even with the way I'm playing this, but is overall relatively quick. But with that, you might notice we're nearing the end of the video. I'm going to need to end this off here. Like I mentioned earlier, this is where the stages in the game get a bit lengthy, so I'm going to have to start splitting some of them up just for the sake of video time. Good job, Captain Stone. You found the entrance to the underground base. Cool. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great night. Take care. And in part 3, we'll be checking out the underground base portion of the underground base. See you guys then.